if I'm the police officer and I want to make an arrest, why climb to the top of the tree to make an arrest when I could just take the fruit that's hanging right in front of my eyes?
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Because Adulting is Hard podcast. I'm Alita and this is my husband Clay Caldwell. And sometimes you see us, most of the times you see us on the reverse role. I'm on his show, but this time he's on my show because we're going to talk about Friendswood Pub. Because as a business owner, it literally made, that morning, Clay wanted to know why I was angry. I was angry because I could not wrap my head around the Friendswood Pub situation. So I'm going to let you give us a little, you talk words, scenarios better than I do. So give us not your opinion yet, because I want to tell mine first, but just give us the backstory for those people that don't know what the heck we're talking about.
So there's a pub in Friendswood. It's called Friendswood Pub. I mean, that right there on 518 as you're headed out of town towards Alvin. They are, pre-corona, they were a bar.
So keep going. They were
a bar.
Okay, keep going.
That served bar food.
They were a bar.
Well, because you have to think, right? I mean, we can go all the way back to England if you want, jolly old England.
That they're a pub. Right.
You know, a pub is a place that you can go and get a pint of beer and some food. I mean, so yeah, it's a bar, but it's also a restaurant. So they're kind of probably in this shady gray area.
Okay, so the way that I put it was that, so we're going to go into the scenario.
Okay, so some stuff went down the other night, and apparently, from what I'm understanding on Facebook, one of the owners of the Friendswood Pub was arrested and taken to jail by Friendswood PD. But I never really completely understood what she was arrested for. I don't even know that I still know what she was arrested for. But what was interesting out of it was there was two different camps that were spinning this thing.
So you haven't read exactly what the report was for what she was arrested for yet?
I haven't seen it. I mean, I could look it up.
Well, why don't you do it? Because this is where Clay and I got...
I'll look it up.
This is where Clay and I got not an argument about it, but I got heated about it because on March 1st, if you ask the owners of that business, how do you make a living? They say, I own a sports pub in Friendswood that I've worked hard to build and I have all these clientele. And on April 1st, you have, just kidding, you're no longer in business. We don't care if you starve to death and this is your sole income for your business, but you no longer can own the business that you just owned. But by the way, you still owe taxes on that.
Okay.
I mean, that's my scenario from the small business owner, there is zero, public safety, there's zero. When you take away my livelihood, when you take away my right to make a living, there is not jack squat or shit that matters.
Right.
It's my platform.
I know,
that matters what the scenario is. So tell me what it says there.
All right. So it was actually both the owners, the husband and the wife. They were arrested on August 3rd for refusing a bar check and inspection at their restaurant bar, Friendswood Pub. And so...
I don't even know what that means.
Well, I'm going to break it down for you now.
Okay, go ahead.
So as a bar, any place that serves alcohol, you've got to apply to my favorite group,
TABC, I'm sure.
Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. You've got to apply and get a liquor license, a license to serve. Now, it's like anything else. It comes along with the license comes rules you've got to follow. One of those is that while you're open for business as a place that serves alcohol,
alcohol to go,
alcohol to drink, whenever.
Okay.
If you're serving alcohol, you consent, you give permission to, you will not refuse agents, law enforcement agents, TABC certified or TABC law enforcement agents, local police departments, anybody. You won't refuse them when they come to do an inspection.
Okay.
So
I know this is y'all are seeing exactly the response that I get when I try to pitch these things to him. It's still, babe. So
they got arrested for refusing to allow police to come in and inspect. Now,
so you don't think this has anything to do with the fact that they're serving alcohol when they're not supposed to be serving alcohol?
No. I don't think it does.
Because they're not, they have to be under the 50% rule.
Right. I don't think anybody's hurt. And here's why. Here's why I say that's not the case.
Okay.
I have seen other bars in Texas, because they weren't practicing appropriate social distancing, they weren't requiring masks. They've had their liquor license pulled by TABC. So if TABC really wants to shut you down for not being closed when you're supposed to be closed, or not, or serving alcohol when you're not supposed to be serving alcohol, there's a real quick, easy administrative way for them to do that. They just pull your liquor license, and then you're not licensed.
Somebody's filing a lawsuit for that, because I had a valid way to make a living, and it was selling alcohol.
Right, but that's a thing you got to take up with the governor, who keeps signing these executive orders that are taking the place of legislation and usurping the legislative process. That's an election day issue right there. You have a problem with the way these rules are created and the way they're being handed down. Well, you tell the man who's handing them down, I got a problem with you, and you vote somebody else on election day. Now, as it relates to this Friendswood incident, I know. As it relates to this Friendswood incident, they were arrested for refusing to allow Friendswood PD to come in and inspect the bar. Now, as I understand their position is Friendswood PD has been harassing them while they've remained open during this time that they were supposed to be closed. And they've got a banner out front that says, we're not closing, or whatever it is. But what you hear from the city, the police department, because they responded uncharacteristically. I found it odd that they posted their own little blurb on Facebook about what actually happened. What they say happened is that over the course of the past year, there have been something like 25 some odd DWI arrests that have come out of patrons leaving Friends Pub, which has prompted the police, the local PD, not even TABC, but the local PD, to begin looking at potential over-serving, which is what the city referenced in their post, was that over-serving was a crime. And so they've begun an investigation, if you will, about people being overserved at Friends Pub. Now, I pointed out in a different post on Facebook that is in a group that I don't really talk about.
Right. Keep going.
I posted, look, you got a few things going on here. One, you've got location, all right? And they say in real estate, location, location, location. Well, other than, say, the pizza place, what's the name of it? Center Court, right? Pizza and beer.
Which they didn't want there either, because they served alcohol.
Right, but,
anyways, go ahead.
Water under the bridge. Other than that restaurant, that pizza restaurant, there's not another bar that is closer in Friendswood to the police department than Friends Pub.
Right.
So you're right there and it's on the main, what I'm going to call is a main street in Friendswood.
And I'm not going to lie, I didn't look up the date.
It's the road that goes through Friendswood with the highest speed limit.
Well, what I was going to say is, I'm not going to say that I looked up the specific, but I do know that it's on TxDOT's list of one of the most dangerous strips of road in Texas.
So you've got a dangerous strip of road. You're really close to the police department. You've got what I call the doctrine of low-hanging fruit.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means this. If I'm a police officer and I want to make an arrest, why climb to the top of the tree to make an arrest when I could just pick the fruit that's hanging right in front of my eyes? If I go down and post up at Friends Pub as a police officer in the evening, I don't have to wait very long before somebody rolls out of there and commits a traffic violation and, they're over the legal limit. It doesn't take much drinking to get over the legal limit. And so it's the doctrine of low-hanging fruit. If I want to make DWI arrest, I go to the nearest bar from the PD.
And that's not just in Friendswood. That's everywhere. They sit outside the Astros games.
They do it everywhere.
They
do it outside popular bars in small towns. I mean, it's a known thing that happens. So it's a cost of doing business, maybe. I don't know. So you've got Friendswood PD posted up in the parking lot. Yes, apparently there's some sergeant who's gotten involved if you read the
I don't even want to get into all that.
We won't get into all that, but I mean, yeah, the superior person is down there. They're doing an investigation. I guess basically at the end of the day, they're looking at, is this place over serving alcohol?
And I mean, I guess my thing is, why kick them while they're down? I mean, we're literally in unprecedented times in I mean, they make a living owning a bar, babe.
Well, I get that, but I mean, what you've got is the bars have been shut down. So now, if you're going to be an establishment that is a restaurant, right?
Right.
You've got to get the 51% rule kicks in, right? You've got to get your revenue stream has to be predominantly food as opposed to alcohol. So if you're
because you get the right to change my business model in the middle of me owning it.
Well, so there's some litigation that's to be had
for
there.
Sure.
But as I always tell people, look, you may beat the rap, but you're not going to beat the ride. And that's exactly what you have here. You got arrested, right? Now, you may beat the case down the line, but it doesn't change the fact you got arrested.
I hate when you say that. You're always going to you may take the ride, even though you're.
Well, you're going to beat the rap. You may beat the rap, but you can't beat the ride.
I don't know, babe. I mean, I have zero qualms with the police.
Well, yeah. My experience with Friendswood PD has not, as a small business owner, has not been that, right?
I agree with that scenario.
I don't see that level of harassment in our businesses.
Right.
Okay. We even had CBD.
Right.
All right. Which for a long time was sort of in a fuzzy gray area. And we had it in the store even before it was technically legal.
Right.
And we had smokables in the store, even though really in the legislation that was out there, it was illegal. But we never saw Friendswood PD on that product. I mean,
no,
didn't bother us.
I mean,
and people knew. People knew.
Well, and we put in scenarios that didn't say that you had to be 21 to buy it. There was no reference, not anywhere. We put those procedures in place ourselves.
So harassment has not been my experience with Friendswood PD. But when I see these two stories, I say, well, maybe they're being harassed. But then I see Friendswood's response, which is, well, look, we're just trying to cut down on the DWIs coming out of the parking lot. I say, well, we've got two competing interests here that seem kind of valid. I mean, I get being a small business owner and trying to make a living, scratch out a living during the COVID-19 quarantine and lockdown.
They literally had their business. I mean, I know you have your own business too, but it wasn't a scenario that they told you.
But now that you've got it back, though, let the police in the door to inspect the bar. It says in your license.
I mean, I got some PTSD from having my business, and I know how this goes. I watched the lady in Dallas that had the hair salon that refused, and I know
different thing altogether. That was literally, she had an executive order from the Dallas County judge that told her to. It's
still an overstep of government, in my opinion.
But this is not an overstep of government.
I get it.
It is the government is acting under a lawful piece of legislation under their license to serve alcohol. They have agreed to allow these inspections, and so to refuse them is a crime.
It should be a crime to take my business. It should be a crime to take their business. But again, I'm just saying.
I think this is where which thin cycle do you get sucked into? Because the restaurant, the Friends Pub spin is that they're trying to shut us down, whereas the Friendswood PD spin is we're not trying to shut anybody down. We want you to stop over-serving alcohol.
The PR marketing person in me says you market it just like that. I mean, I get it.
They're gonna curtsy some favor from conservatives.
Well, because they freaking need the business. I mean, they're gonna go out of business, babe. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Sure, but I don't think that's gonna convince Friendswood PD to leave the parking lot and quit investigating.
I get it. And I mean, I live off of 520. My street literally connects to 528. Yeah. I've been next to 2 drunk driver accidents, one where somebody tapped me. So I know that stretch of road is dangerous. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get what I am not questioning Friendswood PD here. I'm just the small business owner that's like, at some point, y'all, you got to cut us a break. You can't. Nobody's giving them breaks on their rent and all that stuff. I mean,
understand. I totally can't. Totally get it. But at the end of the day, they weren't arrested for remaining open. They weren't arrested for selling products. They were both arrested basically for refusing to allow the Friendswood PD to come into the bar and inspect.
Low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit.
I'm just low-hanging fruit.
And definitely a thing. So.
Well, thanks, babe. I mean, there's nothing about this scenario that is. I mean, if you can't tell, it's infuriating to me. Not just this, but just what small business who are having to jump through to make a living for yourself right now.
It can be difficult. I get it. But don't make it more difficult for yourself than it already is.
Right. I know. Kind of like why you made me pull flour. Don't make it more difficult than it is.
That's right. Is the risk worth the reward?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, babe. And y'all, thanks for letting us debate out this topic that's been hot for a week at our house. So we appreciate you, and remember to live happier because adulting is hard, and we'll see you next time.